Hi, and welcome to Comfortable Lies. We are continuing with the Fear Campaign in episode 6, just covering some of the things that we didn't get to in the last installment. So, our last video was about the Fear Campaign and what fear is, how it's leveraged, and some of the evidence of that in reference to the season's topic, the 2020 pandemic. Today we're going to talk about some of the side effects of a fear campaign and wrap this topic up, as it were. So, the main problem with using a fear campaign with people is the main side effect, or the real drawback. And I can't mention enough times that this is a theme that we see over and over and over again throughout history. When a fear campaign is applied, it usually generates the other. Now, what I mean by the other is the scapegoat, the person or people's whose fault everything is. When we look at the last election cycle, the other was Donald J. Trump and his supporters, that they were obviously monsters and not deserving of being treated humanly, because, well, everyone was led to be afraid of these people because they were dangerous and psychotic and reckless and destroying democracy and blah 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 blah. And now that we are in an age where these people's rights are being violated, no one cares. And that's literally the picture I see being painted by the government of the United States of America, about the COVID-19 pandemic. The people who can't or won't get vaccinated are being painted as some sort of other, that they are the threat to society. And all humanity can be destroyed because these people aren't getting vaccinated against COVID-19. There are logical issues with this. There are, and maybe we'll get into it towards the end of this season. But the language is what's really important here, because this language has been used before. It was used in 1930s in Germany. It was used all throughout American history up until today in reference to people of color, especially by politicians. That's the alarming thing, is that no one seems to have a problem with this, but they've been exposed to this. Everyone who's alive, almost all of their lives, if they've lived in the United States. Now, what is creating the other do? Why do I bring up certain examples of this? I can bring up thousands. It's something that's been done for since government has been in existence. It's one of the few things that fuels government's existence to begin with. Well, I bring up these examples because some of the most atrocious behaviors that humans have admitted on other humans have been the result of these two very current examples, two examples that should be really fresh in our minds. In 1930s Germany, I don't think I have to rehash what happened during World War II, and the discovery found at the end of World War II what Germany was doing with the scapegoat to their fear campaign. And I don't think after last year we really have to delve too deep into the subject of how equating people of non-white races, okay, as something less than human has had a very bad result. I think that's the most vanilla way I can actually put that. The more direct way is literally every piece of legislation that's been used to target and isolate people of color in the United States at the hand of police officers, district attorneys, in other words, government lackeys, has been due to creating this aura of being the other by politicians and by the media. I can vividly remember as a child being told over and over again by the media about how the people living in ghettos, and we all know who those people were drug-addled psychopaths just looking to murder and rape everyone and anyone around them because, they were animals. I can't stress enough the side effects of this type of campaign on people of color in the United States. Going all the way back to the time of Jim Crow, curtailing particular rights from people of color, all the way to profiling and rights violations of people of color today by the police. In 1993-94, the practice of lynching was brought back to the United States by the United States government at the hands of police officers in the United States. And that is a direct result of scapegoating people of color for all the bad things that are happening in society. So I think I'm abundantly clear as to what a fear campaign usually ends up as. It usually ends up as a way to make it okay for the citizens to not give a flying fuck about a certain segment of society and allow atrocities to happen to them. And that's a problem. And that's something that I don't understand. More people don't have a problem with it. In fact, if we remember, in early 2021, someone was canceled because she dared to note that the actions being taken place, creating the other fear campaigns, mimicked what was happening in 1930s Germany, and how dare she shine this light on society. You can't equate what happened in 1930s Germany to today because fill in the blank. The reality is it didn't start with throwing people in boxcars and sending them off to camps to be gassed or medically experimented on. It started with creating the other. It started here, where we're at right now. And it's what could happen. And we have to accept the fact that the people who are engaging in this action understand the potential consequences, whether or not they're intentional or not. These are the potential consequences of these actions. And they know that. And that doesn't stop them. That doesn't give them pause. And that should really make you question whether or not this is something you really want to be a part of. The other side effect of uh, a fear campaign is it creates addicts, and not addicts to heroin necessarily or addicts to cocaine. It's addicts to fear. The sense of uncertainty and needing to be saved is what is created by a fear campaign. And that really has to be recognized by the people. The people who are being subject to this fear campaign have to realize that they themselves are a very big part of the problem because they're addicted to it. I can't tell you how many times, and I understand that this is anecdotal, but I can't tell you how many times I would be having a conversation with an erstwhile rational human being who, during the early stages of this pandemic, were glued to the television and watching the stats avidly and telling me blow by blow every word coming out from the CDC because they couldn't help themselves. They were addicted. And this is part and parcel to the propaganda. Nationalism, the pride is a drug too. It's not just fear. All of these things, because their escape from responsibility of yourself, over yourself. So, in conclusion, I'll do a little recap from last week and this week, just to ensure that we're all on the same page here. Governments and media use fear as a motivator for the population. More times than not, these fears are exaggerated, and a lot of misleading information and altered statistics or cherry-picked statistics are used to generate a sense of fear in the population to allow certain actors within the society, in this case government in general, to move forward a highly politicized agenda, and normally this is not considered a good thing. If we look at examples in history, generally it's not a positive thing that the government wants to do, that it would require using a fear campaign to make it happen. The environment is also rife with a bunch of useful idiots. Social media and the machinations of social media have created a forum where just about everybody can put their input on a certain topic. And that's not necessarily a good thing, because some people just want to take the narrative and go, this is what's happening, this is the truth, regardless of what the truth is, because they were just told what to say. They're just repeating what they were told. There's evidence out there that refutes it, but they disregard that because they're afraid. And they're looking for the authority figure that's going to deal with the fear. In episode 4, we talked about scientific consensus and how scientists themselves are in fact human and are also susceptible to bribes, personal bias, and political pressure. So are fact checkers. You can't operate any type of reliable system of checking people without engaging in confirmation bias. So the idea that, well, this was fact checked doesn't really matter in the real sense of the deal, because who watches the Watchmen? Who fact checks the fact checkers? utilizing a fear campaign has certain side effects which, historically speaking, have had some of the most horrific episodes of human history attached to them. And finally, we have to remember that fear, just like all emotional states, act in our brain the same way drugs do. And it's easy to get addicted to that feeling. And all of the people who propagate fear campaigns know this. They know that when you're afraid, you like to stay afraid. And you look for that savior, because that savior is that dopamine burst that you need. And the people who propagate that fear campaign, the people who make you afraid, are 99% of the time the people who are planning to save you from those irrational fears. So that's the reality about fear campaigns, why they're used, how they're used, and what the effects there are of them. This has been Comfortable Lies. I'm Harry, and thank you for joining me. Stay safe out there.